This is Christy. Today I want to talk to you about forward progress for the win. So I did it. I actually made forward progress this week. Baby steps, but forward progress nonetheless. Late in the week, I was able to follow through on my plan from last week, and I contacted the 2 individuals that I mentioned in last week's blog post. I've got a link to that post over on the blog. You can find that at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This originally posted in September of 2021. Now, it even took an extra email to get the contact information for one of those contacts, since once I got looking at what I had, I discovered I had no specific information. So in the end, I sent 3 emails this week. Now, I received a reply and got the needed contact information for that second contact, and I turned around and sent her an email directly. Now, I also sent an email to the local contact and asked about SSI, as well as housing options here in town, and what the process looks like to begin to try and find a job for AJ. All in all, a decently productive week on this let's make progress side of things. Now, I also continued making progress on catching up with my past to-do list items and reinforcing my new routine, even when life threw me a few curveballs and I ended up with less time to put towards that routine. I was able to spend at least a little time each day focusing on that routine and accomplishing something on my to-do list. And of course, some things on the list took way longer than I ever anticipated. But at the end of the week, I had a number of items crossed off my list. I feel like my head is beginning to stay above the water level. Barely, but it's getting there. Maybe in another week or 2, I'll be able to have my whole head out of the water, so to speak. So what did I learn this week that I could pass along to you? Well, here's a few thoughts. First, accountability is important. Honestly, I don't know that I would have followed through this quickly if I hadn't had this blog post to write. Okay, so 2 weeks in a row helped. But just knowing that I had to report back to you kept pushing me forward on this task. Also, sometimes we need to seek outside help. Yes, I could have just called the number I found and seen where that took me. But that still feels like an overwhelming task to me. And I'm not convinced it would be a successful step. So instead, I reached out to people who may have other insights that can help me succeed. And hopefully, there's a more easily succeed at this next step. Now, if all else fails, I can still make that phone call. And finally, be proud of your accomplishments. Yes, I'm proud of myself for taking these baby steps. Were they hard? No. Were they necessary? Absolutely. Could I have done more? Possibly. But I did something. And that's so much better than doing nothing, which is where I've been for a lot of weeks. So I'm proud of myself for completing this step. And now I'm making plans for the next step. So what's next up on this journey? Here's an idea of at least some of the items left on my to-do list. Complete the SSI application and eventually obtain SSI for AJ. Look at options for living arrangements for AJ. Now, while part of me would love to look in several different locations, I'll be focusing on finding something in our local area at this point. If our plans change, I'll modify my to-do list at that point. And finally, begin asking questions and trying to find a good job or hopefully several job options for AJ. Again, I'm not sure how this process works, so I've got to begin asking questions and seeing where those answers lead. But I know we need to have something lined up for him by the end of the school year. Now, all of these items have a ticking clock on them. I've got reasonably hard deadlines looming. Okay, some of those are more self-imposed than hard and fast deadlines, but I still feel the clock ticking. And just as I've said about Sean, I'm realizing the same things are true for AJ. It's time. He's ready. Now I just need to follow through and move him on to the beginning of his real life, apart from me, independent of me. And also, just like with Sean, I find myself realizing that this is a really bittersweet moment. I'm glad that I've still got some time to get used to this idea. So my question for you this week is this. What steps did you take in your area of struggle? I'd love to hear about it. You can leave me a comment below, or you can leave me a comment over on the blog. That's at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This is from September of 2021. If you prefer, you can always email me at Christy, Christy, at havenofhopeforme.com. I'm proud of my forward progress on this rocky path so that I can continue to say that life is good and there is never a dull moment.